Graduate school overview, here we are. Here's our introduction. We're going to talk a little bit about who goes to graduate school. We're going to talk about what is graduate school. We're going to talk about getting there, and then we're going to talk about some next steps. So as I said before, if folks weren't here, if you have any questions, you can feel free to raise your hand if you want to raise a hand, or you can put it in the chat. So here are our goals for today. First goal is to understand types of graduate degrees. Second, learn the components of and a path to a strong graduate school application. Third is identify reliable sources of information for learning about graduate school. So let's get started talking about who goes to graduate school. I have some figures here. These are the latest numbers hot off the press for 2022 for Barnard. So out of our graduating class from last year, from 2022, 23% of folks went to graduate education. So that's a little bit up from in the past. 60% are working and 17% are still looking. Now, when we compare that to the national average, we see that that's higher. So in the United States, 10% of people that obviously answered the census, so it could be higher or lower, 10% of people that answered the census had a master's degree, 1.5% had a professional degree, and 2.1% had a doctoral degree. So we can see that these numbers are pretty low. So pursuing graduation is, a little bit rare in the United States. So hopefully it will help boost you personally and professionally. So what is graduate school anyway? I'm sure people hear this term, you might hear it talked about, oh, I'm a grad student, I'm going to grad school, whatever. Basically, grad school is a catch-all term. It's a catch-all term for advanced education that comes after an undergraduate degree. So you really can't go to grad school without going through undergrad first. It's diverse in scope, delivery, quality, and offering. So, these things a lot of times are not the same depending on what program that you're going through, what level. There's a lot of diversity there. Also, when we're talking about graduate school, we're talking about master's programs, specialist programs, and doctoral degrees. So for the purposes of this talk, we're going to talk about the two kinds of degrees. Now, there are a lot of different ways that we can split up degrees, but this is how we're going to talk about them for today. On one side, we have professional degrees, which are intended to prepare for specific careers and typically require practical training, a lot of times in the form of an internship. Then we have academic degrees, which provide further study into a specific topic or academic area and typically require production of original research. Now, we see that it's a Venn diagram, which means that there's overlap, right? So no professional program is going to have absolutely, zero academic preparation. And a lot of academic programs will have a component of their curriculum that is practical based. So there is overlap, and included in that overlap is the fact that there are master's, specialist, and doctoral degrees that are offered for both the professional and academic sides. So let's break down what these things are anyway. So professional degrees, these are meant to prepare for a specific career or field, right? So thinking about the DDS degree, which is for dentists, MD, which is for doctors, JD for lawyers, MBA programs, that's for business folks, MSWs, that's a master's in social work, MSEd, those are for folks that are interested in education, and then the PsyD. Though that's for folks that want to be clinicians, want to be therapists, right? So these programs are specifically meant to train people for these professions, right? So you wouldn't go into a dental program and maybe you want to be a psychologist. No. The dental program is going to prepare you to be a dentist, and that's it. You can maybe pick a specialty within dentistry, whether you want to be an orthodontist or a pediatric dentist or something like that, but it's not going to prepare you for any other career. Just like an MSW is not going to prepare you to be, some other career. The most kind of flexibility that might be within these is that you might either be trained to be a practitioner or a teacher of these things. So these are things to keep in mind. These programs can be approximately 2 years for a master's and 3 or more years for a doctorate. And I would say that you should choose these degree paths if you are certain that you want to be in the paths. So if you are like, I'm not sure, being in these programs is not going to kind of offer you a lot of flexibility. So certainly choose them if you are sure. All right. So on the other hand, we have academic degrees. And what these do is provide further study into an academic discipline. There's often no specific career preparation in the curriculum, but there is a lot of times an expectation of an academic career at the doctoral level. So if you are entering into an academic program, a doctoral program, what they are expecting for the most part is that you will go into the academy. There's a focus on producing knowledge through research, and this might take around the same time as the professional degrees, with around 2 years for a master's and 7 or more years for a doctoral program. So let's talk about the differences between master's and doctoral degrees. At the master's level, again, we talked about the time frame, 1 to 2 years. The coursework is concentrated in concentrated areas to solidify your foundation. So unlike undergrad, where you have to take a math and a science and a literature class and a phys ed class, if you are interested in a master's degree, let's say you are interested in sociology, for example, you are probably going to be taking 75% of your classes. 75% of your classes are going to be just about sociology. Maybe you will have electives where you can choose to think about what flavor of sociology you might want to do, or maybe you want to explore a different area. But most of your classwork is going to be concentrated so that you can solidify your foundation. For academic degrees, a thesis is going to be required. So again, this is you producing knowledge, you contributing to the academy. And then after you're kind of done with that, this is going to be a determination of next steps in your academic career. So whether it's academia, industry, nonprofits, arts, governments, whatever. Now let's talk about doctoral degrees. Again, this is a longer commitment, 3 to 7 years. You'll be taking coursework to solidify your foundations. A lot of times you're going to be taking coursework alongside master's degree students. So, there's not like that much difference at the coursework level until it comes to like research classes and classes that are specifically meant to prepare you for your dissertation. You might have to take comprehensive exams, whether that's in the form of an oral exam or a dissertation prospectus, where you basically are showing the faculty that you are ready to progress on to candidacy, which is a period of intensive research. So this is when you start to do your research for your dissertation. And then at the end of that time and at the end of your career as a doctoral student, you defend your dissertation, which is basically, after you've written this book about your research and you kind of summarize and talk about the contributions of other folks to your research, you present it in front of a committee of faculty. A lot of times other members of the community are brought in, and you basically say, like, this is my research. this is what I've done, this is what I've discovered, and boom, you're a doctor. And then after that, you can do what's called a postdoc, which is a fellowship where you can go to a different school or your same school and kind of continue doing your research and also teach classes. So it's kind of like not quite a professorship, but kind of, it's kind of like a trial kind of being a professor. These are becoming increasingly more common as kind of the landscape of the faculty career changes, and there are more sort of tenure positions and more temporary positions and more adjunct positions, fewer tenure positions, and higher ed is kind of changing in the way that we have the professorate. So these are different ways for you to kind of, or a postdoc is a way for you to be able to try out or be able to do a lot of the work that you were doing as a graduate student, but actually get paid like a pretty good salary to continue doing that. So now that we've talked about graduate school, let's talk about getting to graduate school. I want you to, as you're thinking about grad school, think about how it fits into your plan, your individual plan. So when you think about yourself, not your friends, not anybody that you know, like how does this fit into your plan? The first question that you should be asking yourself is, does your career require an advanced degree for entry? Okay, so if you, again, want to be a doctor, obviously, yes, you got to go ahead. Sorry, you got to do that MD. But if you are interested in other degrees, they might not require that. However, at a certain point, maybe one is going to be required for advancement. So for example, if you want to be a teacher, you might be able to enter the field with a bachelor's, but if you want to be a principal, or a vice principal, maybe you're going to need a master's or a doctorate. So these are things to think about. Second is your finances. So graduate school is a financial situation, right? Especially at the master's level, because there are limited funding options. So think both in terms of opportunity costs, but also in terms of outcome. What financial impact will attending graduate school have on your future? So is this going to put you in so much debt that it's going to be uncomfortable? Or is this investment of 2 or 3 or 7 years going to be able to slingshot you so far ahead financially that it's worth that investment? That's something to think about. You also want to think about how you will fund your graduate school application process and attendance, because those two things can be separate expenses and they can be quite expensive. Next, I want you to think about timing. What do you want or need to accomplish before you pursue your degree? So that can be personal things, that can be that you want to travel, or that you want to, earn some more money, or you want to buy a house, or you want to start a family, or you want to progress in your career a little bit more. Or it can be skills wise. So maybe you need to, for example, for art history, for those advanced degrees, they require German. Like you need to be able to speak German. So maybe it's that you need to learn how to be fluent in German before you're applying for graduate school. And then you want to think about, when will your application portfolio be at its best? So that might be that you are doing this now while you're still in school, because you won't have outside influences. You won't, have to, you'll be able to spend a lot more time on it. But maybe it's going to be in a few years when you've had some work experience. And those questions are very individual. As I said before, they depend on your own circumstances and the programs that you want to go into. Finally, I want to think you would I want you to think about your personal development. Which skills would you like to develop before graduate school? How do you hope to develop personally and professionally as a result of graduate school? So think about these things. Is there a way that you can do these things without graduate school? These are questions that you should ask as you are getting ready to go to graduate school or considering even if graduate school is going to be right for you. So now that we've kind of talked about considering graduate school and things like that, we're going to talk about how the college choice process and the graduate school choice process are a little bit different or a lot different. So I'm sure when you were in your college search, you were thinking about Barnard. Here's some of the things that you were thinking about. You were thinking about institutional culture, right? So this is a women's college. You like that. You like the alumni network. You like things like that. You were thinking about the quality of instruction and research. You might have been thinking, well, I'm not sure what I want to major in, so I want to go somewhere where there are a lot of different academic programs where I can kind of try things out. So you wanted a diversity of academic and co-curricular options. At a liberal arts college or at the undergraduate level, there might be many options for changing your mind and your focus. So maybe you were an English major in your first year, a German major in your second year, then you went over to computer science, and now you're a bio major, right? Obviously, there's no way that you could have done that because of prerequisites, and that's not how any of that works, but you had those options, right? And then finally, at the undergraduate level, there are tailored supportive resources for you. So I'm talking about things like tutoring, right? We have the Writing Center. We have things like Access Barnard. We have a ton of different supports to help undergraduates be great, right? So let's kind of contrast that to graduate school. When you're looking at graduate school, you want to focus on the program culture, rankings, reputation, and focus. So as opposed to undergrad, the school name per se isn't as important as the program. So you are going to be thinking about not does X school, is this school highly ranked, but how does this program that I want to enter to rank? How is its reputation in my field? What is its culture? What is its focus? You also want to think about the quality of research and advising. Again, we talked about the fact that academic programs focus or the impetus is for research, for knowledge production. So you want to make sure that you are looking for a school that's going to support your ability to do research. Advising, that is a difference between a terrible experience and a great or passable experience, right? You want an advisor that is on your side, that is going to be able to get you through, and also somebody that knows about the topic to which you are applying. Unlike undergraduate, there's a depth of options within your field of study and among faculty. So again, maybe you like, I don't know, my major was like Latin American and Caribbean studies. So I might go somewhere that has like a lot of different Caribbeanness and a lot of Brazilianness and a lot of, there might be a depth in that way, but I'm not really looking to change in the program, right? You're looking for that depth. And then delimited options to change directions. Again, in the scenario where I'm a Latin American and Caribbean studies person at a master's program, I can't really change that much without leaving the program completely. Maybe I can change from being a Brazilianist to being somebody that specializes in Argentina, but I can't change from being a Brazilianist to somebody who studies France. And then finally, general resources. So there aren't the tutoring programs. There aren't a ton of of those specific resources that you're going to find at the undergraduate level. But of course, every school is going to have a library. Every school is going to have accessibility office, things like that. It's not going to be that same level of support, which is why it's important to find a program that has a good and supportive culture to kind of get you through to make up for what you might not be getting, in terms of resources, of tailored resources. So now that we've talked about that, we're going to talk about the elements of a strong application. And I'm going to share, these elements, which you can see on the screen. And we'll also talk about how you can get there if you're not there already. So all my juniors, my sophomores, if any first years are here, we're going to talk about how you can get to a strong application. Okay. So let's start with transcripts. Now, this is something that you're going to need to submit. So any transcript from any school that you've attended is going to be part of your grad school application. So that means study abroad. That means when you took a community college class, when you were in high school, all of those things are going to be there. And then of course, we want to talk about Barnard. So as an undergrad, you should be taking challenging and interesting courses. So interesting to you, not interesting to the grad school, right? You only have this time at Barnard and then it's over. You can't even come back because we don't have any master's programs. So you just have this chance. So make sure that you're taking classes that you like. If your graduate program requires a certain major, then you need to select a major that will prepare you for your intended degree. You also should be thinking about the prerequisite coursework that the graduate program requires and making sure that you're getting that done here. It's going to be a bit more complicated for you to be able to do that after undergrad. It's not impossible, but if you're able to do that while you're here, that's best. Participate in class. So that means, raising your hand, doing good group work, staying after and talking to the professor, going to office hours. These are things that are going to not only show up on your transcript, I'm sure you all already know the power of participation and that participation grade. Sometimes you're on the edge of being a B+ or an A-, and the professor looks back fondly and they're like, yeah, that person did participate. I do know them. I can vouch for them. So they might bump you over to that A- instead of that B+. Choose to write a thesis. So this is critical. Writing a thesis is helpful in so many ways. Number one, it can help you try to discover what you want to study further in graduate school. Number two, it helps you grow closer to professors who are in your field and might one day be your colleagues. And number three, it really helps to train your writing muscles because as a graduate student, you're going to be writing kind of all the time. And if you're thinking about a career in academia, like this is just the beginning. You're always going to be writing. You're always going to be publishing. So use this time to lay a good foundation. And kind of on that same note, take this time to cultivate good scholarly habits. So when I say that, I mean things like learning citation conventions, writing well, soliciting feedback, knowing how to incorporate feedback into your work, time management skills, being a good colleague to your peers. These are all scholarly habits that you'll take with you throughout your academic career. So now let's talk about the CV/resume. You, as an undergraduate, want to kind of take advantage of the fullness of what Barnard has to offer. And so that means not only taking the classes, but participating in things outside of class. So that could be any research experiences, even if you're a humanities major, a social science major, you can talk to people, professors, about gaining research experience. You want to highlight your academic achievements. So if you won any awards or scholarships or things like that, these are things that you want to put on your CV, but these are also things that you want to keep an eye out for during your time at Barnard. If there are chances for you to have teaching or TA experiences, those are going to be super helpful because as a graduate student, especially as a doctoral student, it's likely that you are going to be teaching. So you want to have those experiences now and add them to your CV. Publications. This is super important. As I mentioned before, if you're thinking about being a faculty member, publishing and writing is going to be an integral part of your career. So start now, start getting those publications, talk to professors, see if there are ways that you can kind of get going with that. And clubs, yes, if you like being in clubs and stuff like that, do it. Take advantage, again, of your time here at Barnard. Participate in clubs and leadership experiences that speak to you. They don't necessarily have to relate to what you're doing in graduate school. Your life doesn't have to revolve around getting into graduate school. You can participate in things just for fun. But you can, or not but, and you can add those things to your CV and resume. Those experiences are valuable, and there are things that you can talk about to graduate schools. And then, of course, once you've put together your resume or CV, you can make an appointment with a Beyond Barnard counselor, either a PCA or an advisor, to go over it. Let's talk now about statement of purpose. So I think this element is one that is sometimes a little bit scary to folks, because it's literally just you in front of a blinking cursor and a blank page, like, what am I going to write, right? But it doesn't have to be. And it is also an important part of your application. So you want to take it seriously, but at the same time, like, not be too scared about it. It tells admissions committee and faculty who you are as a scholar, right? So they have your transcript, they have your CV, but this is a time for you to tell them a little bit more about yourself. You can use these things to kind of put a magnifying glass on some of the experiences that you've had. So take it seriously, but also, like, put yourself into it, right? Because you want to answer the question, who are you and why are you a good fit for the school/department/program? And it allows you to reflect on your formative scholarly experiences, hopefully so that you can talk about why you want to take those to the next level. So this statement of purpose is like, what is your purpose in this school? What is going to be your purpose once you leave this school? This is integral. And for my folks that are, in the, earlier classes, first year, sophomores, you can kind of start taking stock of the experiences that you're having. What's sparking joy for you? What is exciting to you? When you had a reading, what is the one that made a difference for you? You can keep a Google Doc or a journal or something like that, and just start kind of jotting things down so that when it comes time to write your statement of purpose, you already have started thinking about it and you have some ideas of where you want to go. Next is a representative writing sample. So when you're applying, a lot of times, or most times, applications are going to ask you for a writing sample. And that doesn't mean that you need to write something fresh. They don't want that. They want a piece of writing that's been graded, that you've already received feedback on. It's a limited size, maybe like 10 or 20 pages, depending on the program. And it gives the admissions committee insight in how you synthesize information and your understanding of creating academic writing, okay? So at the graduate level, this is super important because this is what you're going to be doing. Again, going back to knowledge production, right? Even in professional programs, there is an expectation that a certain percentage of people are going to be contributing to the literature of the field. So graduate schools want to see that you can write. So what you're going to do is you're going to choose your best graded assignment and revise it for the purposes of this prompt. So, you definitely don't want at the end of the 10 pages for it to cut off in the middle of a sentence. Like, that is not a good look, right? So you're going to think about any writing that you've done during your time here at Barnard and reflect on like who that is, who you are as a scholar, and the messages that you are going to want to portray to the admissions committee. Sit down with a faculty member after you've edited for things like spelling or any kind of superficial kind of editing that you need to do, and work with faculty so that they can help you convey the message that you want to convey. Finally, you want to make sure that you're adhering to posted guidelines. So they might say 20 pages. Nobody's reading that 21st page, right? So you need to make sure that you're following the guidelines. It's also possible, depending on the program that you are applying for, that they're going to ask you for not a writing sample. They might ask you for a sample that is more representative of the program. So they might ask, if it's computer science, maybe they might ask you for code, or a lab science, maybe they're going to ask you for an explanation of your skills. So just kind of keep an eye out for that. Next part is sometimes optional, and those are diversity statements and addenda. So diversity statements allow you to share a little bit about your background and how your background is going to contribute to the classroom. So it might be, maybe the program is very male and you are a woman and you want to talk about how your perspective as a minoritized person can add to the classroom. Or maybe you want to bring in research showing, like there was like a situation a few years ago where Apple had a health tracking device and someone realized that it didn't track menstrual cycles, right? And to folks that have uteruses, like, that's such a glaring oversight, right? So maybe if I were a woman going into computer science program, maybe that is the kind of example that I might share in terms of like why it's important for me to be in a computer science master's program or something like that. So you can work with one of our team if you have questions about that. But even if it's optional, and I encourage you to think about doing it because we all have a diverse background and we all have ways that we can bring diversity into the classroom. So even if it's optional, try to do it. So despite our best efforts, sometimes we can have a tough time in school. And sometimes those things are due to outside influences. So maybe during the pandemic, maybe you had to take care of your siblings and make sure that they were going to virtual school. And as a result, your grade slipped, or, anything, right? Sometimes we need to explain to graduate schools a little bit about why things might not be as they seem. You can do that in an addendum. Okay, leave that out of the personal statement, leave that out of the statement of purpose. This can go in addenda. Also, sometimes, as I said before, graduate programs might ask for you to write a specific extra essay. This can be shared in addenda as well. Now, standardized tests. So the good news is that a lot of schools are not requiring standardized tests anymore. So if that's something that you are not interested in doing, you can make sure that your application list is filled with these places that don't require standardized tests. However, of course, there are some programs that are going to ask for that. And what you are going to want to do is investigate which test is required for your academic area. So maybe, the program requires the GRE, maybe they require a GRE subject test. Maybe if you're thinking about an MBA, it's a GMAT, but you can also take the GRE, etc. So you want to make sure that you are investigating which test is required for your area and if it is even required. In terms of preparation, this is a question I get all the time. What I recommend is to talk to current graduate students or recent alumni for the best way to prepare for the test, right? So they might say, I bought a book, or I did a class, or I got a tutor, whatever. They are kind of the best resource to understand what the best way to prepare for the tests are. And anticipate enough time to retest if needed. We all know what's been going on for the last 2 years, right? So just in case something flares up and you test positive or something like that, you want to make sure that you have enough time to retest and be able to submit your application on the same timeline, just in case this has to happen. So if you do need to take a standardized test early enough so that if you need to retest, maybe you didn't get the score that you wanted, or, something like that, there's time enough for you to take another test if you need to. So, letters of recommendation. This is a super important part of your application. It's crucial because you are going on to a higher level of academia, right? So professors trust other professors to tell them if students are prepared to take the next step, right? So it is important for you to create and maintain strong relationships with faculty members so that they feel comfortable enough to write you a letter to help you get to your next stage. Do not be afraid to ask. That is literally part of their job. They do it all the time. They do it not just for undergrads, they do it for alumni, they do it for other folks that are in their field, so other faculty members, if they're up for tenure, schools will ask people from their past, from the field, to write letters of support on their behalf or write letters of recommendation. So this is a very strong part of being a professor. So I say that to say, this is part of their life. It is okay to ask. You should be asking a faculty member with whom you are familiar and who's familiar with your academic work and goals. So this is somebody who you've taken a class with, or 2 classes or more, right? A lot of people choose their thesis advisor because that person is familiar with their work over the course of a year or longer, depending on, how your thesis advisor. And you want to request in late summer or early fall, okay? So a lot of times folks are not really in the office in the summer. Maybe they're doing field work, or maybe, they're on vacation or whatever. So late summer, they should be winding down, coming back, and then early fall, with the understanding of the fact that early fall is pretty wild. So definitely have some patience for your faculty members, but don't be afraid to nudge if you don't hear back. And the way that you can ask them for a letter is try to ask during a conversation so that you can kind of like couch what you're asking and answer any questions that they might have. The way that you might ask is, would you be able to write me a strong letter of recommendation for my application to graduate school? And that strong letter of recommendation, that's key, okay? Because it gives them a chance to say no. And I know no is a scary word, but you do not want somebody who is going to write a bad letter of recommendation for you. I've seen them in the past. It's not good. It's not a good situation. So in the case that they do say no, you can ask them, is there a way that we can get to yes? So is there, is it that you don't know me well enough? Or, is there a way that we can get to yes, basically? Or if you, can't take it, or not can't take it, but if you feel uncomfortable with that, you can move on to somebody else who will write you a strong letter. And then you want to follow up with a thank you note. Thank you for writing this letter. And then also just keep them abreast of what's going on. So whether you get your acceptance or rejection or whatever, let them know what it is. So for my younger folks, or for my first years and sophomores, it's crucial that you start to make and maintain relationships with faculty. Don't be afraid to go to office hours. Don't be afraid to email. Don't be afraid to say hi to people when you see them on campus or whatever. Like, don't be afraid to start making those connections. This is what you're going to need to go to the next level. To create relationships, you can ask the person about their work. You can ask them to tell you a little bit more about their path to where they've gone. You can talk about a reading that you did in class. You can maybe start floating some research ideas by them. I read this essay that we, went over in class, and, I think that the work can be expanded these ways. Anything that you can think of to kind of get the person talking and start getting to know each other, try going towards that, because like I said, having a strong letter of recommendation is crucial. Okay, question from the chat. If we are considering graduate school for a time later than the year after graduation, when should we ask professors for letters of recommendation? That is a fantastic question. I would say closest to when you are applying. And I say that because you are going to have experiences that you're going to want to share and talk about, and that are going to hopefully strengthen your letter of recommendation. So what you can do is, if you're afraid that the person might forget you, you can check in from time to time and just say, hi, I'm so-and-so. I hope you're doing well. Just wanted to give you an update. This is what I'm up to. This is when I'm thinking of applying to graduate school. Let me know if you want to talk or anything like that. Definitely a fresher letter is going to be better. Okay, so let's talk about interviews. For doctoral programs, a lot of times you will have to go through an interview. It's a long process. It's a long part of academia, can be up to 7 or 8 years. So admissions committees, faculty, they want for the challenge. They want to know that you're ready to take part in this. So you will meet with a faculty member or a member of admissions and kind of talk a little bit about your academic journey and what you want to pursue in graduate school. So it gives you, again, another chance to present yourself and talk about your enthusiasm for your work and your fit for the program. You can prepare for that by doing interviews, applying for jobs, things like that. It's a practice makes perfect situation. And of course, we are very happy to help you to prepare. Okay, so here is an example, and heavy on the example, timeline for a master's or PhD. So again, I want to stress that it is an example. You are not quote unquote behind if you haven't done these things. It is just an example. So in your first year, what you want to do is determine your interests, right? We all come in and we want to do a lot of different things. Start narrowing those things down. Take classes in areas that you're interested in, and then start kind of ticking things off your box and ticking boxes off your list, and start thinking about what you might want to go deeper in. You also are going to be building connections with faculty, like we talked about before. You're going to want to engage in meaningful experiences inside and outside of the classroom. So that means doing research. That means participating in clubs, volunteering, internships, classes that you enjoy, like dance classes, fitness classes, whatever it is. Do things that help you engage in meaningful ways. And then start to investigate research experiences, as I said. During your sophomore year, you want to begin taking advanced major coursework. So in your first year, hopefully you're taking all your introductory stuff. Sophomore year is when you're going to start getting deeper. You want to maintain those relationships with faculty and start building more. So hopefully you're going to have a new crop of professors, a whole new crop of opportunities to make relationships. Start thinking seriously about your path to graduate school. So again, is this something that you actually want to do? How are you going to do it? Timing, etc. And you want to sketch out your prospective timeline. So again, thinking about the milestones that you want to hit in life, the things that you want to do before, the things that you want to do after. You want to start drawing that out. In your junior year, again, you want to take on some research positions. Hopefully, you are, if you've been doing that the whole time, you're taking on more independent roles, more challenging roles in research. You want to start discussing your academic and career interests with your network. So when I say your network, I don't just mean faculty. I don't just mean, other academics. I'm also talking about your family, right? For me, my mom, I grew up in Florida. I'm the only child, and I had to start preparing my mom that I was going to leave Florida. So I started talking to her kind of early about what if I don't know, perhaps went to New York, knowing fully that I was going to New York and I did not want to ever turn around and come back, right? So you want to talk about these things with your family, not just to kind of prepare them for the future, but also find out if they have any connections. Sometimes people know people, and you can get a better view of what the future might look like. Your friends, anybody, talk to anybody about your interests. Start investigating required standardized testing. So again, figuring out if you need to take it and when you should take it, and take it. If it's something that you need to take beforehand or during your junior year, take it. And then start building your school application list. This should include, especially if you are a PhD or thinking about being a PhD, visiting campuses. So build your application and start to visit some campuses. 7 years is a long time. So you want to make sure that you feel cool with the neighborhood, feel good about the environment, things like that, things that you can't perceive from a website or a virtual visit. You want to try to do on a real visit, an IRL visit. And then finally, in your senior year, you're going to be writing that thesis, thinking about how you want to expand on your work or existing work. So, you obviously need to do a lot of research and things like that for your thesis. Look at where those holes are. Look at where you might want to add something. Your voice is going to be. You want to discuss specifics about your plan with faculty beyond Barnard and your network. Again, that includes your friends, your family, your club members, your sorority sisters, whoever, right? You definitely want to start talking about this and start getting some advice, some guidance, things like that. And then in your senior year, you want to also start contacting potential advisors if you're thinking about a PhD program. So in the PhD application process, it's crucial that you reach out to people that you are interested in being advised by. And the reason that is again, it's 7 years. It can be up to 7 years. I don't want to scare people. Mine did not take 7 years. It can be up to 7 years. So you want to make sure that you have a good relationship with somebody. You want to make sure that that person is not about to retire or about to leave. You definitely want to make sure that you have that contact. And even, a couple weeks ago, I was looking at the Columbia grad school, the GSAS application, and they actually ask you for the name of the faculty member that you have been in contact with. So it is important to do that. So let's see. Someone says, if we are a sociology major considering graduate school in the field or similar field, what is your advice on either completing a thesis or the research paper option to research seminars? I would say that's a good question for your advisor. You should get that person on board. I think the thesis option is a better option because it more mirrors what you are probably going to be doing in graduate school if you're thinking about doing an academic program. So in the master's degree level, in the doctoral level, you're just working on, I mean, you're going to do like papers and things like that for class, but you're really only working on one paper, one long paper. So having that experience in the thesis is going to prepare you for what the challenges of writing this one long paper. So that would be my advice. But like I said, it's best to kind of talk to your advisor about your goals, about your specific strengths and areas where you could use a little bit more growth to make sure that that's the right path for you. These are excellent questions, by the way. Okay, let's start to wrap up. So here are some reliable sources of information. We have faculty, we have Beyond Barnard, we have alumni that you can access through a lot of different ways, including Barnard Connect, LinkedIn, and even some of them work on campus. So make sure that you're talking to them. Other students are a fantastic source of information, so don't be afraid to talk to them. Grad students, either at Columbia or elsewhere. Program faculty, so the faculty of the program that you're interested in joining. Program administrators, so maybe the director of the program or someone else, they are a lot of times the gatekeepers, and you definitely want to be on the good side of these people because they can help you maybe get into a closed class or, you know, give you the tea on something. So you definitely want to make sure that you're on these folks' good side. The program website and official social media, again, you can see who's there, what are they doing, what are some events that they're doing, what about the students, things like that are really good ways to kind of start to gauge potential programs. Then you want to look at journals and publications, look at who's publishing the articles that you're interested in. This is going to help you decide where you go in terms of programs. Conferences are a great way to not just learn about the field, but also for you to connect with other people that are interested in the same areas that you're interested in, students and faculty. Poster sessions, other PIs and mentors. So if you're in one lab, talking to another PI is great. References. So when you're reading an article, make sure that you're looking at the reference list and seeing, you know, who's saying what. The Occupational Outlook Handbook, again, going back to my question about does this job that you're interested in, does it require graduate school? The Occupational Outlook Handbook is a great resource. It also tells you things like outlook, like, is this job going to exist in 5 years? Or what's the demand for this job? That can also help you determine if graduate school is going to be a good fit for you. Family and other connections. So again, family, friends, friends of friends, friends of family, whatever. And then finally, professional organizations, especially those that are linked to the path that you want to go into. So now let's talk about next steps. The first thing that you want to do is reflect on your goals. Then you want to conduct some outreach to alumni. Again, LinkedIn and Barnard Connect are the best ways to go about this. Tell them, you know, that you're interested in their career path, their degree path, if they went to the school that you want to go to, or they majored in the thing that you want to do, or they're doing the thing that you want to do in the future. That's a great resource. Have frank conversations with your network, including faculty, family, and friends. So you should be talking to faculty about ways that you can improve, the things that you're doing well, and then asking them about the programs that you should be thinking about, because they're the ones that are going to know which programs in the specialties that you are interested in are going to be strong and prepare you for your next steps. Meet with people at Beyond Barnard. We can help you with, resumes, cover letters, personal statements, interviews, all that good stuff. And then finally, enjoy your time at Barnard. It's short, like I said before. You can't come back because we don't have any graduate school. So this is really a limited amount of time that you should enjoy. It shouldn't just be trying to get to the next stage, although that is important. Take some time to really drink in your time here at Barnard. So that's all. I want to thank you so much for your attendance and for your fantastic questions. I'm going to stop the recording.